Anyhow, first of all, I want to thank you all for attending, but I want to get over the point of how special our Pompano fishery is. If you research it on Google, it clearly states there's no regulation in Texas because people don't catch Pompano. That's what it says, okay? But if we don't self-regulate, we will lose that, I promise you. And in the last 10 years, the Pompano fishery has blossomed. It is without doubt the best food fare out there. It's awesome. So self-regulation is a key part of us sustaining this fishery and being able to use it as we do. Let's start off the seminar. Get Brenda to go to the first text. And we're talking about the life cycle of the Texas pomp, how it comes around, how quick it develops, and how it is prey for a lot of fish, especially at its beginning stages. Okay, so the spawning, Pompano will spawn several times a year. It'll dump thousands of eggs and the male comes in. It's done in open water. As the water's warm into the 70s, then Pompano come in closer. They're dropping their eggs, being fertilized. And then they turn into like these, and they're very vulnerable. So they drop thousands, and so the rate goes down. The next thing that happens, once they only stay in that stage for up to 2 weeks. So it's very short, even shorter if the water is warm. Once they get going, this is a pompano that's under a year old. That's about a year-old pomp. Normally, a good sized pomp is going to be sort of that size. If you get the smaller ones, if you put them back, they can spawn and they're going to produce fish for you the following year. So self-regulation is really important. Size is a key. That's a 2-year-old pomp. It's out there doing its job. It's spawned hundreds of times. It's producing thousands more for us to target. So it's a key factor that we need to look at. And remember, self-regulation is the key. Small hooks is good. You can get them out quick and release the pomp. Everything's going great. So let's go to the next stage. These are good sized pomp here. You can see the size of them. Ideal to take home, cook and prepare. There's several ways you can cook them. You can't go wrong with the pompano. I mean, Marcus eats them raw. They're good. They're good. As long as you eat the white meat. Sashimi, is it called? Sashimi. Yeah. So you can eat them raw. They're very crispy. It's like eating an apple if you do decide to go that way. I personally like them cooked. Location, where to fish. That's the key, really, is finding them. And there's certain signs you can look for that are going to tell you bait holding areas or what they're looking for. Now, a pompano can eat small fry, like you'll see the red ball anchovy coming close to the beach. You'll be able to identify that with birds working and things like that. They will go after them. So it's always worth targeting that side of it. But key factors like coquina on the beach. When you're driving the beach, keep an eye out for the coquina, which are these small clam, and they will bury as a wave, and then they will come back up. You'll see them. They come to the surface. A good coquina bed is maybe 50 to 60 foot in width, and it'll be the same out there. All right. So when you're targeting pompano, what I do is I make a big spread. It might be from that container to the grass. I'll put my rods out. Once I start finding where they're at, you're looking at a 50-foot area of where them pompano will be. That's how you can be beside someone who's catching a ton of pompano and you're not catching one. It's because you're off the coquina bed. So when you find that area, you focus in on it. Bring all your rods and start working that one set area. Also, if you see the birds coming in, not only do they eat coquina, of course, small shad, small crabs, sand dollars they love. I think, Sabo, you've caught them on sand dollar, haven't you? So, and also the ghost shrimp. These ghost shrimp are really good bait, and they're very fragile. So there, that's it. Actually, is making these 3D printed. all right? We tried a design where we used a bottle, just a bottle, and these are an aerodynamic bait chum bucket, if you like. It fits just above the sinker, and you can then put your scent baits in here. A Pompano hunts in two ways, his visual and his scent. And he'll dig or he'll attack. But he's under attack as well. They're one of the most sought after species by not only us, by sharks and things like that. They'll go after them in a New York second. In fact, it's one of the favorite baits for the shark fishermen is a Pompano. So if you've got some in your ice chest, don't even stop and talk to them. Because they will steal them. But this item, you can fill it with any bait, pop it in there, and of course you'd have a fish bite on your hook, and that the scent will bring them to the area. The fish bite is what they visually go after and pick up. So that's a great idea, and I think it's going to really make it easy for all of us. Even redfish, I've caught reds using this system. You can put shrimp, dead shrimp, anything you want. You're just trying to put scent in the water. And that's one of their main methods of hunting, is they're doing it either by scent or visual. So they're very much dig in, you know. And when we're designing our rigs, we put little luminous floats. They're very bright. If you see them at night, they really glow, and so do these. So that'll bring them into that area, and they'll hit it. They'll hit that fish bite. So it's a great way to fish. When we're using fish bites, we often use what's called bait elastic. So this is bait elastic. That has become our top seller. Wherever we go, people want the bait elastic. You can take a shrimp and a fish bite. Before we go fishing, Brenda will take shrimp, cut them, and she binds them to the fish bite so they're nice. You keep them frozen. As you're fishing, it's really quick to put a second bait on and get it back out. The bait, $11.99, the luminous ones. And they're all 3D printed by my mate. Yeah. So bait elastic, very simple, self-amalgamating. You just wind it in, it'll lock a shrimp to the hook. Also, when we're doing long casting, your baits get an extreme shock at the beginning of the cast, especially if you're not using clip downs. The beauty of a clip down, hold that, is not only the aerodynamics, allowing you to get extreme distance, but the bait accelerates with the sinker. You don't get the shock that you get when you're using a loose snood. And as it hits the water, of course, it fires off. This isn't really a pomp rig. This is a redfish rig. I'm just using it because I'm lazy. Another important thing when you're pomp fishing, and what I do a lot, is trying to find where they are. Instead of a double, I go down to a single rig. Just that, taking one rig off will give you 30-foot distance. So when I'm targeting them, looking for them, I'll put some baits extreme distance over that furthest bar, and then I'll bring them in on the bar and this side of the bar with a wide spread until I locate where they're at. And remember, we're only looking at maybe 50 foot. But if you're in that 50 foot, they will wear your ass out. They're that prolific. Several things going on here that made me want to stop. You can see this point, right? Normally when you find these, you'll find a grey heron or something like that on it. It's a big bird, he'll be out here. This first gut often narrows or blocks off, but our target is way out here. And by walking out on that bar, it reduces the casting distance you need to get over that far bar. So a point is really critical in identifying a good spot to stop. And as I said, look for the birds. They tell you the rhythm of the beach. You'll see the terns working, the anchovy. Pompano will eat anchovy, all right? So you'll see them little birds working. or there'll be a heron, a blue heron standing on the beach, and he'll claim that point. So as you're driving along, if you see one, you see a starter point, you see that blue heron, pull up and give it a go. You've got nothing to lose. He's really good at it. He's a big bird and he's been doing it for ages. But this clearly shows. Now Brenda targets these closed guts. She does really good with redfish, and she caught Pompano in close last weekend, didn't we? So I was working out and the Pompano had come in. Yeah. So we target, huh? That was a good one, wasn't it? It was a big female, so that it was glad we got it. And here's some more. This shows the blocked gut here. You can see this gut coming along, it blocks off and then it'll cut out through that point. And suck outs are always good. Many fish will hang around a suck out. What's happening is the bait's coming along, comes up against the block gut, it'll turn and it'll go out through the suck out. If you can target a suck out, you're normally pretty successful. There's birds, everything will be going out through there. It's a predictable bait holding area which you want to always focus on. If you find a suck out, hit it. Again, there's birds working. These are black tern, and what they're targeting is the red ball anchovy, which are little tiny ants. You'll be driving the beach and them anchovy will blow up the beach. They'll actually be on the beach. You see them all flipping about. It could be jackfish, ladyfish, something scaring them up. Always worth a shot. If you see that, the birds working, the anchovy are on the beach, get out there, give it a go in the first gut. You're going to pick them up on lures. They should work. Spoons especially.
And don't forget, the Pompano eat those little bitty anchovies, so throwing out a little further.
Yeah.
How big are the schools of the Pompano? I mean,
They could be 100. Easy. They're very prolific at dropping eggs and producing. Like the closer they're in is normally a sign of their age. You'll throw a cast net and you'll find all the little ones, right? Then you start moving out, they're slightly bigger. Then you can work far out and they stay separate. They're like the big ones are all run together, the babies are all hanging the first gut, and as they get older, they move out and join the crowd. So, but you can not have any more than 2 rods if you find them. I mean, it's literally bang, go. And we work as a team. I'll throw out, Brenda will wind them in, and we just keep moving the rods over. Got one loaded up, and it's that busy. When you find them, they move. You can get them real quick. And what I do, I set myself 10, which a lot of people think is too many. Like a lot of these states, they've got a limit of 3 and they think we're very, wrong for taking large amounts. I do suggest if you have caught a load, don't post the picture, you get a load of shit. Just stick with the 10 is what I take, and I need 10 to film a smoker. So that's why I go after 10. When it comes to smoking and that, we can do any of you want a recipe, I can get you one. I think that's it on that section. Yes, you look for them holes and you use a sucky pump, but you're not allowed to use them on the national seashore. You're not allowed to use it on the national seashore. Anything north of it you can. In fact, but there's also a limit on how many you've got. Pelicans working. Oh, here's a good point. When we're fishing for pomps, you'll often be driving the beach and you'll see one jump, or you'll see something jump and you're not sure what it is. That's more than likely Pompano. They come clean out of the water. If you're using a breakaway sinker, he'll rotate the wires and you'll see him come out of the water as well. If it's a good one, yeah, he'll jump clean out of the water. And they're real sporty fighting fish, and then they always run one way or the other, mainly taking the direction of the tide initially. So the way we fish, we set our rods up, we use a method called uptiding. So if I'm fishing here, I will walk as far as that grass, throw out as far as I can, and I slack the line and bring it back so it looks like the sinker's in front of me. but the sinker is actually there. The rod will be pulled tip down by the tide. As the fish hits, the rod will jump back and drop. Most fish will run with the current. So your job then is to keep your line straight and never get close to the fish. That's the biggest mistake I see people do. They walk in the water and the fish is here. If you do that, that increases the tension on the hook and it'll blow it. You walk back. I never get closer than the grass to here, especially if it's a big fish. I'm walking back and I bring him onto the beach and then I go forward and get him. So that's a real big mistake. I see people doing it all the time, especially on small rods. They'll be fighting them and they're right there. They're winding them in and then they're around their legs and they can't grab them and they pop off. Spit the hook. Hack two. Right. It's true. So always back away from your spit. If you're fighting big fish, always stay in line with it. A good shark might take you half a mile up the beach. Your job is to keep your line dead straight and look, read the beach at the same time. If you see an opening in the gut, bring him along, and then when the wave comes in, start bringing him in. If he pulls on the rod, walk forward, let him fight the reel. Then stand your rod up and walk back, and then when you wind, crank and walk back. So stay in line with your fish is the key to landing big fish. I landed a bull shark 5. He was 5.5 foot on a Pompano rig with 14-pound line. So yeah, that was like 2 weeks ago, that hook. All right. So once you get them, if you stay in line with them, don't put too much on them, you'll get them, you'll wear his ass out. I always think it's like fighting a person who's got their hands in their pocket. They're running along, they've got this hook in them, they're trying to get away, they can't physically do that. So as long as you keep the tension on it, let him have it. If he wants to go, let him go. That was about 20 minutes, 10 minutes, something like that. He went off okay. In fact, he had a second rig in him that he'd been dragging around, but he put up a good fight. And I've had them before, mainly on pulley rigs. I'll catch shark. And this time of year, that takes me on another subject, squirrel, is the species that we have turning up. I've never seen before caught on that beach in 30 years. Like in the last 4 years, something's happened. We're getting smooth-skinned puffer. Never had them before on the beach, right? We caught baby ling. We caught suckerfish. Freaking suckerfish on a hook in close. Never had that. Okay. Sammy caught a triple tail. These are, yeah, rare fish to be in these first and second guts. They shouldn't be there. So I think we've had a current change that's making the whole scenario different. For example, we didn't get Sargasso weed in the last 4 years, what I consider a proper event. Sargasso weed is normally that deep on the beach. 6 foot can be easy. Haven't seen that in maybe 5 or 6 years, or maybe even longer. We haven't had red tide. Everything's going towards Florida. God bless them. But they're getting the red tides, they're getting the Sargasso events, and now they're getting hurricanes. So I think there's been a current change, and that's making our species different. We're getting different types of fish coming in close. So that's something we're looking for.
You've already kind of talked about that.
Mm-hmm. Fish bites. That is the key of the game. I can guarantee you I've caught thousands of pompano, fish bites and shrimp, or just fish bites. It's a winner. You got bait in your pocket all the time. You can't go wrong. I mean, if I was going to survive on that beach and people said, right, you've got to survive, I'd want a bag of fish bites and a cast net. Right? I can catch birds with a cast net. I'll talk about that some other time. But a cast net will keep you fed. Fish bites is a bait that's in your pocket the whole time. You cannot go wrong to have fish bites with you every time you fish. If you put a double bait on like a shrimp and a fish bite, the shrimp will go, but the fish bite is still working for you. He'll be out there for an hour. It don't matter. I honestly have tried them when they're black out the freezer. I've tried them. I've taken them out the guts of a fish and reused them, and they still work. And I've chewed on them, and I can't tell the difference.
How large of a piece of the
Just a little bit like that. Yeah, about an inch. Yeah. And it's just a really good thing. And you can go down with just fish bites and be very successful. They'll pick them up. In fact, if you're fishing with shrimp and fish bites and you start getting a lot of hard heads and things bothering you, take the shrimp off. Just use the fish bite. And that tends to lessen that hard head event. Go shrimp salt. Okay, let's talk about that sinker. I recommend these when you're pompano fishing in, because not only do I sell them, but they're effective because they allow the pompano to move. If you've got a stiff wire sinker, you won't even know there's a fish on it. You need them wires to break to let the fish move, which will show you what's going on. Otherwise, you'll sit there with a holding wire and you just won't know. Let me just go over that uptide fishing again. So, current is going from my right to my left, okay? I will walk in the direction of the current. You throw out as far as you can, and then you slack the line off and bring it to your Surfmaster sand spike, which is here. And you set that line as if it's straight out. That will hold in an extreme strong currents. If you've got a strong weed event, that's when it's a problem. The only way to really fish weed effectively is you've got to move with it. All right, so if we have a big Sargasso event, me and the wife adopt a method called hopscotch. So with short rods, you can use spoons, top waters, or whatever. If you look in the Sargasso, there'd be one clear area. Might only be